$500 a month, 30 years, 7% returns. You do the math, you land on $567,000, and somewhere in the back of your brain, a little alarm goes quiet. You're doing the thing. You're being responsible. You've read the articles. You've set up the auto transfer. You are, by the standards of your generation, ahead. Only 19% of millennials say they've saved 3 times their salary by their 40s, which means if you've got anything invested at all, you are statistically lapping most of your peers. That should feel good. Vanguard's median figure for the 35 to 44 age group is just $39,958. So yes, $500 a month puts you in the top tier of your generation's savers. And you are still on track to retire broke. Not broke because you didn't try. Broke because the math you've been given is running on assumptions that stopped being true about 15 years ago, and nobody updated the spreadsheet. Today, I'm going to show you the 4 structural drains that are running simultaneously underneath every millennial retirement plan, including the disciplined ones. And I'm going to show you exactly how each one works, in dollar terms, not in vague warnings. Because the problem isn't motivation. It was never motivation. It's a plumbing issue. Think of your retirement savings like a bathtub. You are filling it with a garden hose, $500 a month, steady, reliable, disciplined. You feel the water rising, but the bathtub has 4 drains, all open, all running. The first drain is inflation, not headline inflation, the specific inflation that attacks the things retirees actually spend money on. The second drain is withdrawal math, what you think you can pull from that tub safely versus what you actually can, and how a single unlucky year in the market can turn a well-funded retirement into a 20-year exercise in financial triage. The third drain is fee drag, the compounding cost of small percentages that Wall Street has quietly structured into your account in ways that are technically disclosed and practically invisible. And the fourth drain, the one that genuinely keeps me up, is forced exit. The statistical reality that most Americans never get to retire on their own terms, and that getting pushed out early triggers every other problem at the worst possible moment. Every section of this video is just a closer look at one of those 4 drains. Keep the bathtub in your head. We are going to close them one at a time. Here's the actual math problem first. So we're all working with the same numbers. Americans now consider $1.46 million the magic retirement savings number, according to a Northwestern Mutual survey. $567,000, what your $500 a month buys you over 30 years, at 7% is 39% of that number. You've arrived at the destination with less than half the fare. The Social Security Administration would pay approximately 78% of benefits upon trust fund insolvency. And according to Fidelity's 2025 retiree healthcare cost estimate, the average 65-year-old who retired in 2025 will spend an average of $172,500 on healthcare and medical expenses throughout retirement, not including long-term care costs. So you've got $567,000. You owe $172,500 of it just to healthcare before you've paid rent once. That is what we are working with today. In a few minutes, I'm going to get to something about your 401k fees that is going to make you want to log into your account immediately. But first, here's why the inflation problem is more specific and more dangerous than the standard 2% number suggests. Most retirement calculators model inflation as a single flat percentage, 2 or 3% annually. That's fine for modeling the price of a television or a bag of groceries. But retirees don't spend like the average consumer. They spend heavily on healthcare and housing. And those categories run on their own inflation schedule, a faster, meaner one that the calculator on your financial advisor's website is not capturing. Healthcare spending surged 6.9%, while housing climbed 2.9%. Together, healthcare and housing now represent 35.1% of total consumer spending. In retirement, that share grows. You're not commuting, you're not buying work clothes. Your spending consolidates into the 2 categories that inflate the fastest. Here is what that compounding does to you over time. At 7% healthcare inflation, which is roughly what we saw in 2025, a healthcare cost that starts at $5,000 a year becomes $10,000 a year in 10 years, and $19,300 a year by year 20. That is not a budget line that you can smooth over with discipline and meal prepping. That is a structural cost that grows faster than your portfolio's withdrawal capacity. Most retirement calculators assume you'll spend 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income, ignoring that the most expensive categories grow faster than overall inflation. Now apply that to actual retirement income. $567,000 at 4% withdrawal is $22,680 a year from your savings. Add the average Social Security benefit. The typical retired worker today only collects about $23,000 a year. Total annual income, roughly $45,000 before taxes, before healthcare premiums, before the furnace breaks, before any year where the market does what markets sometimes do. This sounds like it might be survivable in certain zip codes under certain conditions. But the $45,000 is a best case number, and it's a number that erodes every single year at a rate faster than your portfolio grows. Even individuals who save during a period of stable conditions can be hurt if their pre-retirement investment strategies don't account for inflation. Drain one, it's running. Stay with me, because the next piece of this changes how you think about withdrawal math permanently, and it's the thing that makes me genuinely frustrated with mainstream retirement advice. The 4% rule. You've heard it. Bill Bengen developed it back in 1994. The idea that if you withdraw 4% of your portfolio in year one and adjust for inflation each year after that, your money survives 30 years in any historical scenario. Researcher Bill Bengen developed that rule of thumb back in 1994, meaning an annual withdrawal rate of 4% is the amount that will see investors through retirement in any economic scenario. That rule is now 32 years old. It was built on historical data from a completely different interest rate environment, a completely different equity valuation environment, and a completely different longevity picture. By the way, hit subscribe if you like the content, otherwise YouTube's algorithm may never show you my videos again. A Morningstar study in late 2024 suggested a safe withdrawal rate closer to 3.3% for new retirees given current market dynamics. That means someone retiring with $1 million should plan for about $33,000 a year, not $40,000. On your $567,000 portfolio, 3.3% is $18,711 a year, $1,560 a month from your savings. You are now supplementing a lifestyle on coffee and compromise money. And that's before we talk about what happens if the market has a bad year when you're just starting to draw down. Sequence of returns risk is the name for what happens when the market crashes in the early years of your retirement. Not your accumulation years, your distribution years. The mechanism is brutal. The sequence of returns risk is the idea that even if your average portfolio returns are fine over your retirement years, you could still run out of money if the market performs badly at the beginning of your retirement. Because you're withdrawing from a portfolio that is already shrinking. Every dollar you pull from a portfolio that is down 30% is a dollar that never compounds its way back. You're permanently selling low. Here's the illustration. Two retirees, both have $1 million. Both earn an average of 6% per year over 30 years. Retiree A has a strong market in years 1 through 5. Retiree B gets a 20% crash in year 1, then everything recovers to normal. Same average return, same withdrawal amount. Retiree A ends the 30 years with more than $2 million. Retiree B runs out of money in year 19. Morningstar's 2025 research found that retirees who experienced poor returns in the first 5 years and did not adjust their spending were far more likely to go broke. And the don't worry, Social Security will catch you backstop. Social Security's retirement trust fund is now projected to face a funding shortfall in 2032, a year earlier than last year's projections. The One Big Beautiful Bill, signed into law on July 4th, 2025, affects the solvency of the Social Security and Medicare trust funds by reducing tax revenue. The reduction in taxation of benefits will reduce total taxation of benefits by roughly $30 billion per year, according to the Committee for a Responsible Budget. This is projected to accelerate insolvency of the OAC Trust Fund from early 2033 to late 2032. At that point, benefits will automatically be limited to incoming revenue, resulting in a roughly 23% benefit cut for all retirement and survivor benefits. You filled the tub. You ran the hose. You followed every rule. The rules were written for a different bathtub. Here's the part that never makes it into a retirement calculator. And it's the specific gap that changes the math in ways people aren't prepared for. I built a digital book called The Exit Code, 8 chapters of 50 years of retirement data distilled into a mathematical framework for figuring out a specific exit date from the rat race. Not someday, a date. 2 things in that book are directly relevant to what we've been discussing. The dynamic withdrawal method, which replaces the rigid 4% rule with a system that adjusts to market conditions in real time, so that sequence of returns risk doesn't destroy you in year 1, and the lazy portfolio, which has historically outperformed the majority of actively managed accounts over 30-year windows without requiring you to predict anything about the market. There's also a chapter specifically on what I call the $14,000 invisible bill, the insurance gap that hits people who exit before 65, and which we're going to get to in a few minutes, because it's directly connected to the 4th drain. You can get it for less than dinner for 2 through the link in the description. Every year you wait on understanding this, math compounds the wrong way. Now, the 3rd drain, and this one is operational starting today, right now, in your current account. Let me introduce you to someone. His name is Marcus, 43 years old. He works in supply chain management in Charlotte. He started his 401k at 27. He contributes just over $500 a month. His employer matches 3%. His current balance is around $112,000, which puts him above the median for his age group. The average 401k balance for millennials is $83,700, according to Fidelity Investments' Q4 2025 retirement analysis. Marcus is beating that. He's doing well. Marcus also has no idea what he is paying in fees or what that number is doing to his projected balance 20 years from now. Here's the thing about fee drag. It doesn't show up as a deduction on your paycheck. It doesn't appear as a line item on your monthly statement. It is embedded in the expense ratio of the funds you hold, compounding against you in the exact same silent exponential way that your principal is compounding for you. The Department of Labor mandates that 401k plans include a fee disclosure notice every year. The mandated language states, "The cumulative effect of fees and expenses can substantially reduce the growth of your retirement savings." They are legally required to warn you in writing. They just put that warning in a document that is formatted like a terms of service agreement and delivered in an envelope nobody opens. These expenses usually add up to an average of 1%. However, depending on your plan and investment choices, they can range from 0.5 to 2.5%. That range is everything. Here is the math in full. Worker A invests $100,000 with 0.5% in fees. After 30 years at a 7% return, the account grows to about $574,000. Worker B invests the same amount but pays 1.5% in fees. After 30 years, the account grows to only about $432,000. That is a $142,000 difference funds lost entirely to fees. $142,000, that did not disappear into the market. It disappeared into fund management companies and plan administrators. That is 4 to 6 years of retirement income, quietly extracted from Marcus's account in the form of a haircut so small he never noticed it. You think the problem is that you're not earning enough in the market. Actually, the problem is the structure of what you're already earning is being systematically eroded before you ever see the benefit. That is the reversal here. The return isn't the problem. The drain is. And there is a second cost layer that almost nobody accounts for: tax drag. Investors who hold assets inefficiently across taxable and tax advantage accounts, holding dividend-heavy funds in a taxable brokerage account, for example, are generating taxable events every single year. Each dividend distribution, each capital gains pass-through from an actively managed fund is a friction point. The research on asset location consistently shows that investors who ignore which accounts hold which assets sacrifice between 1 and 2% of annualized real return over time. Over 30 years, on a growing portfolio, that is a 6-figure error. The third drain runs quietly. That is specifically why it runs so long. Marcus, by the way, discovered the fee problem when he finally asked for the plan's fee disclosure document and had someone walk him through it with him. He found that switching from his default target date fund to a low-cost index fund available inside the same 401k, the same plan, the same employer match would recover an estimated $80,000 in projected value at retirement. He did not change his contribution rate. He did not change his life. He changed one fund selection, one form. That is the operational implication of understanding the third drain. Close the drain now. The fourth drain, the one the retirement calculators never model, the one that makes the other three worse. The assumption baked into every projection we have run today is that you will work until 65 because you decided to stop, that the exit is yours to call, that you have 30 years of runway, not 22. That assumption is not supported by data. More than half of working adults in their early 50s were forced to leave their jobs at some point due to layoffs, business closings, job dissatisfaction, or unexpected retirement. Another 9% left their job involuntarily for personal reasons, including poor health or family concerns. That is a majority. Over 50% of Americans who planned to work until their mid-60s did not. Not because they wanted to leave, because something happened. The company restructured. The manager made things untenable. The body gave a signal that wasn't optional. About 2/3, 64% of workers aged 50 and over have reported seeing or experiencing age discrimination in the workplace. 22% feel like they are being pushed out of their job because of their age. This is not a fringe condition. This is the ambient professional reality for anyone approaching 50 in the American workforce. And when it happens, it triggers a chain reaction through every retirement calculation you have ever run. Think about what a forced exit at 58 looks like in actual numbers. You plan to work until 65. 7 additional years of contributions. Gone. On $500 a month at 7%, 7 fewer years of compounding cost you roughly $190,000 in final balance. 7 years of employer match, gone. Your portfolio, designed to be drawn down starting at 65, now needs to last 27 years instead of 20. You cannot claim Social Security until 62 at the earliest. And if you claim at 62 instead of waiting until 70, you permanently lock in a benefit that is roughly 30% lower for the rest of your life. And then there is the insurance gap. The enhanced ACA premium tax credits that had been lowering marketplace insurance costs since 2021 expired at the end of 2025 and were not renewed for 2026. For early retirees, the subsidy cliff at 400% of the federal poverty level is back, so anyone earning above roughly $62,600 as a single person in 2026 pays full price for marketplace coverage, which can exceed $1,500 a month at age 62 in some rating areas. A 63-year-old might see a full price benchmark silver premium of about $1,444 a month before tax credits. Call it $17,000 a year just for premiums. For a 2-year bridge from 63 to 65, you are looking at $34,000 straight out of the portfolio before a single deductible, before any actual healthcare event, before anything goes medically wrong at all, just to maintain coverage. This is the invisible bill I mentioned earlier. It's invisible because nobody hands you a statement for it when you plan your retirement at age 40. You plug in your savings rate, your expected return, your target retirement date. The healthcare bridge before Medicare doesn't have a calculator on most planning tools. It's an asterisk. And the asterisk costs $17,000 a year. Let's run the full combined scenario now, because this is where the 4 drains interact. A woman, 38 years old, earns $75,000 a year. She has $50,000 saved. She contributes $550 a month, gets a 3% employer match, call it $740 total per month. She plans to retire at 65. At 7% over 27 years, with a 0.5% fee structure, she arrives with roughly $1,040,000. Now apply the real conditions. Her plan charges 1.2% in total fees, completely normal for a mid-sized company, 401k. That fee drag reduces the final balance by approximately $150,000. Her company restructures at 62. More than half of Generation X members don't think they have saved enough to retire at a traditional age of 65. And that's partly because many won't make it there, so she gets 3 fewer years of contributions, 3 additional years of drawdown. She bridges healthcare for 2 years at $14,000 a year from the portfolio. Real arrival number, approximately $720,000. At 3.3% safe withdrawal, $23,760 a year from savings. Add Social Security. Claimed early at 62 at the reduced benefit. Call it $15,000 a year. Gross annual income, $38,760. That is $3,230 a month before federal taxes, before state taxes. And with a $172,500 healthcare obligation sitting somewhere on the horizon of the next 20 years, she did everything right. She started early, she stayed consistent, she got her employer match, she was disciplined when it was inconvenient, and the math still does not work the way the standard advice implied it would. She should have saved more. Yes, more would be better. But tell me when exactly she was supposed to save more while paying for housing in a market that pushed median home prices above $300,000 in most American metros, with over 60% of millennials ranking student loan debt as their top financial priority, ahead of saving for retirement, and with 60% of millennials worrying about paying for emergency expenses with just $500 on hand in case of emergency. The problem was never that she lacked willpower. The problem was that she was managing 4 simultaneous drains, while the financial industry sold her a plan designed for 1. Here is what closing the drains actually looks like in practice. First, find out what you are actually paying in fees, not the expense ratio of your largest fund. The total all-in plan cost, including administrative fees layered on top of investment fees. Your HR department is legally required to give you the fee disclosure document. Ask for it. If your total annual cost exceeds 0.75%, look at what lower cost index fund options exist inside your current plan. You do not need to change brokers, change jobs, or do anything dramatic. You need to read one document and make one fund selection. That one change on a $200,000 balance over 20 remaining working years can be worth more than a full year's salary in retirement. Second, model the forced exit. Right now, in whatever calculator you use, take your planned retirement date and move it 3 years earlier, then 2 more years early. See what each scenario does to your final balance, your Social Security benefit, and your healthcare bridge cost. If the forced exit scenario destroys your plan is a single scenario plan. That is not a retirement plan. That is a bet. A plan handles bad weather, not just good days. Third, stop building your retirement withdrawal strategy around 4% as a fixed number. If you retire into a bear market and keep pulling the same dollar amount from a shrinking portfolio, you are selling low at the worst possible time. Flexible strategies protect against this by automatically reducing spending when the portfolio drops, preserving capital for the eventual market recovery. This is the difference between a static strategy and a dynamic one. Static strategies are simple and feel safe. Dynamic ones require more engagement, but they are what actually preserves a portfolio through the years when it matters most. Marcus closed the fee drain, changed one fund, that was it. The woman in our case study had a forced exit risk she had never modeled. Running that scenario took 20 minutes and revealed that she needed to either save an extra $100 a month starting now or build a healthcare bridge fund specifically earmarked for the 62 to 65 gap. Not a dramatic life change, a specific targeted fix for a specific identified leak. That is what the financial industry does not sell, because it is not complicated enough to justify an annual management fee. It is just plumbing. Close the drain. Lazy investing built more fortune than crypto memes. The hose is not the problem. $500 a month, compounding for 30 years, is genuinely powerful math, but it is running into a bathtub with 4 drains, and the bathtub has been there the whole time. The people who retire with dignity are not the ones who found a better stock pick. They are the ones who understood the plumbing, located the leaks, and made boring, specific adjustments to a system that was working against them quietly. The drains are real. The math is not cruel. It is just honest.